Welcome back to the Zoned In Podcast, everybody, and happy St. Patrick's Day. As always, I'm Joey Meatballs. Alongside me, we got Big Mo, KP, and Weezo. And as always, we're bringing you some sports today. We're going to kick it off with our NBA segment in the Now. We're going to start off with our team and player of the week. I will kick us off. My team of the week is a team, they're having a rough season, losing record, on the edge of the play-in. However, they are in a 5-game heater right now, and that is the Houston Rockets. They are 32-35, and they are the 11th seed in the Western Conference. However, they have won last 5 games against the Trailblazers, Kings, Spurs, Wizards, and Cavs. This is the team. They got a good coach in Udoka. And they got some solid young guys who are kind of like developing into better players in the NBA. Not that getting to that next level yet, but I could see with the Warriors and Lakers being so inconsistent and old, I could see this team potentially popping up into the play-in by the end of the season. So yeah, Houston Rockets, keep it up. Great work, man. Big Mo, you got your team of the week?
I think this is one of the more inevitable ones. It is the Boston Celtics. They had a great start to the week with a 121-99 dominant win over the Trailblazers. They followed it up with a 123-107 win over the Jazz, and one that my good friend, my cousin, is a fan of the Suns, that I think was going to be much closer than it was. It was a 127-112 win over the Suns that made them the first team in the NBA to clinch a playoff berth. I think one of the only right now, so that's amazing for the Celtics. It very much seems like this is their year, and if they could keep it up going forward, going into the playoffs, hopefully they don't choke again, but, it's the Celtics, so we'll have to see.
All right, KP.
Yep, and for my team of the week, I went with the New Orleans Pelicans. Aside from Zion's weird comments last night post-game, they've been on a pretty good stretch recently. 3-1 out of their last 4. They started the week off with a win over Max's Atlanta Hawks, and then they did drop a game to Cleveland, but that's a good team. And then they beat the Clippers, who've been red hot this year, and then a win over Portland as well. So they've had a good last week, and they're looking to be a team in the playoffs that can hopefully do some damage for their sake.
Couldn't agree more. Weezo?
All right, my team of the week is not exactly a stranger to this segment. It's going to be the Denver Nuggets. They're on a 5-game win streak, starting against Joey's Boston Celtics. And they've looked generally pretty impressive over this period. Of course, Nikola Jokic, as always, looking magnificent, putting up triple doubles and other kind of amazing performances in scoring. The thing about the Nuggets this year and last year that's like really impressive to me is just this week, Nikola Jokic in some of these games was not the leading scorer. It was MPJ in one game with 25 against Miami. It was Jamal Murray in another game with 37 just before this week. So just overall really impressive week and impressive run so far with the Nuggets.
Yeah, they're a great team. They're fighting for that 1 seed with OKC pretty hard. So player of the week, I have Jaylen Brown. He only played in 2 games this week out of the 3 that Boston played. But, he had 37 against a very talented Phoenix Suns team, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals. And then when he played against Portland, he had 25, 6, and 5. Jaylen Brown, he's getting it done pretty well on both sides of the ball. And you just love to see that from arguably the best number 2 in basketball currently. Big Mo, player of the week.
This one's going to reside very nicely with Nick here. I actually have, barring yesterday because he played terrible against the Bulls, but I had Mr. Kyle Kuzma for the Wizards. He started off the week with a great performance in their win surprisingly over the Miami Heat. 32 points, 9 rebounds, and 4 assists. He followed that up with 24 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists in their loss to the Grizz. And then following that, 23 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals in their L to the Rockets later in the week. We're not going to talk about the 5 turnovers, but, Kyle Kuzma has seemed like the one light in the very dim environment that is the Wizards franchise. So hopefully going forward, they can continue to build around Kyle Kuzma's talent.
Yeah, Kuzma, I mean, if he was on any other, he would be a very solid number 3, like majority of teams. He may be even a low-end number 2 guy. But the problem is the Wizards are just so horrendous that, he has to be that number 1 option. KP?
Yeah, for my player of the week, I went with a player that actually lost every game that he played this week, but he played pretty well. DeJounte Murray, he's had to step up big time since Trae Young went down with injury. He hasn't been the most efficient, but somebody's got to chuck up some shots on that team to try to put him in a chance to win. And DeJounte Murray is that guy. He did start off the week with a loss in his least efficient game over the Pelicans this week. Shot 35% of the field, not good, but it was 23 points and 11 assists. And then he followed that up with a 40-point performance in a loss to the Portland Trailblazers, shooting 51% from the field and 46% from 3. With also 2 steals, 3 assists, 4 rebounds. So that's a really good performance from him. And then on the 15th against the Jazz, chucked up 27 shots. That's quite a lot, but 33 points and 9 assists with 2 steals. Not too bad. Trying to keep them in games. They don't have a lot of other on-ball scorers on that team aside from Murray and Young, but with Young out, it's pretty tough.
Yeah, I mean, he's really looked like what they thought they were going to get out of DeJounte when he first got traded down to Atlanta this past couple of weeks with Young being out, which is it's pretty interesting in my opinion. Weezo?
Yeah, so for my player of the week, I'm going to go with DeMar DeRozan of the Chicago Bulls. Put up on Wednesday an extremely impressive performance in a clutch game against the Indiana Pacers, who have looked very good this year. Putting up 46 and a very critical tying shot to send the game to overtime where they would win. Overall, just a very good game. The rest of the week was not quite the level of a 46-point performance, but 21 against the Clippers is still nothing to scoff at. And of course, they also won against the Washington Wizards, which who hasn't at this point, but anyway, just a good week overall by the veteran, and he shows that he's still premier talent in the league, and he's that guy for the Bulls team.
Yeah, I mean, I think DeMar went to that game against the Wizards just saying, we're just trying not to be like them at this point. The Bulls have had a pretty horrendous season. They just don't want to be like the Wizards. Alrighty, moving on now to our NFL recap. We're going to just give you guys our favorites, cuts, signings, and trades for each team, our winners and losers of free agency. And we're going to kick it off with my winner of free agency. It's a little bit, I tried to pick a team that was a little bit out of the limelight, a team that I thought improved a lot without actually making like huge splashes in the market. And I picked the Cleveland Browns, starting off with the Jerry Jeudy trade, bulking up that wide receiver room. And for Deshaun Watson, it was very well needed, especially because Deshaun had a very poor quarterback performance when he did play last year. But yeah, and then you bring in Jameis Winston behind him for when Deshaun inevitably goes out for some minor injury that will last the entire season. You have a veteran quarterback behind him that's still looking for that starting job somewhere, who thinks he can win. I don't know if he can, but I think it'll be interesting with Cleveland's wide receiver room, with Cleveland's offensive line, what he can do. And then, Nick Chubb out for the year. What do? They bring in Nyheim Hines to be the number 2 guy behind Jerome Ford, a nice veteran running back that can be a good pass catcher on third down. I don't know if he will be the number 1 or Jerome Ford will be the number 1. When I was reading some articles, it sounded like Jerome Ford would be that replacement number 1 for the time being, and Nyheim Hines would be like that third down receiving back role. But we'll
Chubb
have to
should be
see.
ready for week 1.
I saw he had multiple surgeries on his knee. I wasn't sure he was going to be ready. They said they weren't sure if he was ready for week 1.
Yeah, I mean, it'd probably be tough, but I think he would be nowadays, like around a 10-month recovery. I'd assume that is.
Well, the article I was reading said, with Nick Chubb unlikely to be healthy for the start of next season, coming off multiple knee surgeries, the Browns need to add another running back.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he might not be. I don't know how the surgeries went entirely. I just feel like nowadays 10 or 11 months is usually enough.
Yeah, but when you have 3 or 4 knee surgeries, I mean.
Yeah, it was a really bad really bad injury. So.
It was just one of those situations
Ugly.
where you're such a freak in nature that.
Yeah.
Stuff
No,
happens.
nonetheless, Hines is a good signing for them, yeah.
And then one of my favorite re-signings of the offseason was bring back Zadarius Smith to that already elite defense. I thought that was huge for the Cleveland Browns. And then they just, they bulked up their linebacker room with adding some depth pieces in Jordan Hicks and Devin Bush. Neither are studs in the league, but it's good to have that backup out there when you got guys already out there like JOK, who are one of the best premier linebackers in the league, in my opinion, at least. And then, to round it off, there's one more signing I want to talk about. Oh, they re-signed Shelby Harris as well, who's a big D tackle for them that helped in the run stopping game, which was also very huge. But yeah, the Cleveland Browns kept that really good defense, added weapons on that offense. If Deshaun Watson can stay healthy and return to his Houston Texans self, could be interesting. If Jameis Winston turns into that number 1 starting quarterback that we thought he could be, also could be very interesting. But yeah, that's my winner. Big Mo, winner, free agency.
So, to not everyone's liking in this call right now, the Eagles' season was put to a tremendous halt for them being able to run it back when they couldn't get past the wild card Buccaneers led by Baker Mayfield. So what did they do? They decided to go get some help. And it might not all be great, but they did a lot. One of the teams that did the most in free agency, one of my favorite moves for them. I'm an offensive line guy. They signed 2 guys to that offensive line. They extend Landon Dickerson 4 years, $84 million. Well-deserved. He's a great guard in this league. But I also like how they signed a familiar face to their ranks in a 1-year contract for Mr. Matt Hennessy. With Jason Kelce leaving, he's a versatile guard. He could play guard. He could play center. I'm feeling that they're going to try to play him at center to fill in that gap with a Jason Kelce left. It could be good for them unless they have other plans. I loved the Bryce Huff signing. I felt like a 3-year, $51 million was decent. I felt like it might have been a little too much, but Bryce Huff was a pretty good edge rusher last season. And they brought in Joey's guy, Devontae Parker, on a 1-year deal. You already got AJ Brown, you got Smith, but you throw Devontae Parker in that role that maybe like Julio was last year, where he's just the old presence in the locker room that can maybe catch a ball or two in an important situation. But the most important thing we got to talk about here for these Eagles is acquiring Saquon Barkley from the rival Giants. 3-year, $37.75 million contract, which I think was really cheap for Saquon Barkley. And that's just the state that the running back, market is in right now. And these guys get no money. But that was probably the best signing they made. Big upgrade in talent. I mean, Swift was really good, but big upgrade in talent at the running back position. He stays healthy like he did last season. That's a beast for them. Even with Kelce gone, that's still an amazing O-line to be put behind when you suffered the crap that was the Giants O-line for like all of your career. I mean, this is a boom for him, a boom opportunity for him. And the last 2 things on defense, we don't talk very highly about Devin White because we don't think he's really good in some cases. Carl would know the most about that. But they got him on a 1-year for $75 million, and they brought back a familiar face in Chauncey Gardner-Johnson to fill up that safety gap. So, I mean, I feel like the Eagles, in this sense, to get back into that easy playoff contention, did everything right so far that they needed in free agency, and they even traded for a backup in Kenny Pickett for not a lot. So if the tush push ever injures Jalen Hurts, they have a backup opportunity with a homegrown Philly native.
Yeah, I mean they had a great offseason. Yeah, they lost Jason Kelsey, which is obviously crucial to the tush push, but now they got a Saquon who's going to be pushing on Jalen Hurts from the behind. So now you got two guys who are squat 600 pounds each, running in the end zone. So that's gonna be funny to watch. But yeah, KP winner.
Yeah, so for my winner, I went with the Detroit Lions. There was a lot of talk about them not being able to repeat what they did last season. But I think they made a lot of moves and a lot of re-signings to help them push for that. First off, they were able to re-sign Graham Glasgow before like the guard market went like crazy, and they were able to get him for only 20 mil over 3 years. When I think in the open market he would have gotten at least 10 to 12 mil per year, especially looking at what like Robert Hunt got. They were able to bring in Amik Robertson, and they also able to trade for Carlton Davis, which could help their secondary greatly, especially if they address that in the draft as well. A little spoiler. And they were also able to bring in Marcus Davenport at edge, which I think is a good depth signing. But the big move for them was DJ Reader. I love DJ Reader. He's such an amazing presence up the middle, and he'll be awesome for that defense as long as he remains healthy. He is older, coming off of a pretty bad quad injury, I believe. But if he's healthy, he's going to be big for that defense.
Yeah, for sure. The Lions, they were able to retain a lot of that top tier talent that helped them get there, especially on the O line. They did lose a big piece on the O line, right? So the Rams, I think.
I don't think so.
Jonah Jackson.
Who
What?
was it?
Jonah Jackson.
Oh, he's there. He was there, probably their fifth best offensive lineman.
Yeah,
So,
he wasn't he started like 2 years ago, maybe.
yeah, he's solid, but he's not like the guard market was just crazy. So he probably got a similar deal to Glasgow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Weezo, winner of free agency.
All right, so my winner of free agency, I'm gonna go with the Houston Texans. The young upstart team, no one expected them to do quite as good as this year, but CJ Stroud looked absolutely amazing. And they definitely wanted to address the concerns on the team and build a winner around Stroud with the money they had, and I think they achieved that wonderfully. One of the biggest concerns for them going past this season was their run stopping ability and their pass rush, I think, on defense. Something that I think D'Amico Ryans was very high on addressing, especially considering his pedigree as a defensive-minded coach. And I think they very much addressed it, picking up Fatukasi from the Jaguars, who's a very well-known run stuffer. Kind of provides a good plug up the middle there. Danico Autry to help replace Jonathan Grenard on the edge. And, of course, the big move they made, Danielle Hunter, who with 16 sacks on the Vikings last year, he's going to be a terrorizing force in that pass rush, especially with Will Anderson. The combo of those two is going to be deadly for opposing quarterbacks this year. And paired with the rest of that defense should make for a very good team. Also, small moves like picking up Jeff Okudah at corner, low risk, high reward move if they can manage to turn him into what his potential is, especially under a coach like D'Amico Ryans. And on the offensive side of the ball, a lot of good re-signings, including Dalton Schultz, Noah Brown, who had established a rapport with Stroud last year and did particularly well. And of course, the big offensive signing, Joe Mixon, to I believe, a 3-year contract. Of course, there is the risk of regression. There is a risk of regression for him. However, I do believe that it's overall an improvement at the running back position, and not too risky of a move. So overall, just a very good offseason in general for the Texans.
Yeah, great young team, just became better, getting some veteran leadership on the offense there with Joe Mixon. Yeah. So now, losers of free agency. My loser of free agency. It's the Los Angeles Rams. They did virtually nothing. They lost Aaron Donald, and they signed a mediocre guard, and I can't even think of another move that they've made. So yeah, I mean they've done nothing. They're getting older, and their old players are just going to keep getting older. And yeah, I mean they were already a good team, but they needed more to get back up to that next level of Super Bowl contention. Just didn't happen. Yeah, Big Mo.
Well, can we talk about the Rams just for a second?
Yeah, did I forget something?
I think they had a decent offseason. I don't think they're a loser. I mean, they gave Jonah Jackson a lot of money, and he's not even that good. 3 years, 51 million. That's not a great signing, but they did need offensive line very badly. They re-signed Kevin Dotson, who was one of the best guards in the league last year.
Right.
Colby Parkinson, I don't know what you're doing. Nearly like 8 or 9 mil a year for Colby Parkinson over 3 years is kind of wild. Yeah, I believe he was a Seahawk, right, Nick?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing. Darius Williams, good, pretty decent signing. Former Ram, played for the Jags, I believe.
Right, I forgot about
Solid.
Williams as well.
But you are right. On like the defense,
I think
they do have a lot of needs, and I think they could have addressed some more needs on offense as well.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest reasons why they're my losers is, I mean, not necessarily that it's their fault, but I think the loss of Aaron Donald is greater than anything else, than anything they could have done this offseason. And
yeah, I feel like it also kind of hurts that it happened a couple days into free agency.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like not right away. I feel like they're gonna have to address that in the draft rather than in free agency.
Yeah. All right.
So sorry for interrupting. Your turn, Max.
No, you're good. You're good. I couldn't remember some of their other like smaller signings besides Jonah. But anyway, Big Mo.
Well, I was going to say on the behalf of the Rams, it did seem like they had Parkinson's when signing that contract for Parkinson's. So that's very terrible on their behalf. But I mean, there's an obvious loser so far in this free agency bout this off season. You acquire one of the greatest college coaches of all time, but yet this greatest college coach of all time starts to destroy this team from the inside out, especially on the offensive side. Respectively, he was injury prone the past 2 years. He wasn't really producing much. He just cut Mike Williams. He's gone. You cut Eric Kendricks, who's a Cowboy now. I mean, he didn't produce crazy, but he helped out on defense last season, on a defense that was obviously struggling. You trade Keenan Allen after going to him and demanding he of all people take a contract restructure coming off his best season with the team, producing the most on offense. And you decide to trade him for a bag of chips after he declines that to the Bears. Great move for the Bears. Horrible for this offense. Justin Herbert's number one weapon is Quentin Johnston. Quentin Johnston is the number one option for the Chargers now. With oh man, it's who are the tight ends they signed? Some bums, some mid tight ends. This is gonna go great for Justin Herbert. I'm sure he wants to stay and play the next 3-4 years of his contract with this team. It's looking great for him. You were able to keep Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa though, but that's really important. We got them to stay. You know, they're both going on like 30-something years old, but you know we locked them in, guys. We still have a presence on a horrible defense, but yeah. It's great stuff, Chargers fans. You guys should be excited. You know, the future looks bright.
Chargers fans.
I mean, yeah, I don't know exactly what Harbaugh was thinking trading Keenan for a fourth, but I mean, you know, he goes in there, they're already in cap hell. So he kind of had to do what he had to do. It's business. Not the smartest idea. I'm sure he could have gotten more somewhere else, but I don't know. We gotta see what he does.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you could see this Mike Williams cut happening like really from a mile away ever since they signed him to that massive contract. I mean, he's an injury-prone receiver that doesn't create separation. I feel like it was inevitable. He had a lot of flashes in Los Angeles, but didn't really work out for them. I thought that they were going to end up cutting Khalil Mack since he is so old, but he had that one game with 7 sacks that brought his total up. So even though his pressure rate wasn't amazing, so yeah.
All right, Carl, loser or free agency?
I think my loser is pretty obvious. You can see the logo behind me right there. My Dallas Cowboys. 2 of their 4 signings this offseason were long snappers. So I feel like that's pretty impressive.
Snappers?
Oh wait, no, that's
Two?
just the same guy. I read that wrong. So they're no. It was just one long snapper. I apologize. They re-signed their long snapper. They made 2 re-signings, their long snapper, and then Jordan Lewis. I love Jordan Lewis, great slot corner. And then our one signing so far is Eric Kendricks, who is basically just slightly worse Bobby Wagner, who I already am not a big fan of at this stage in his career. So he can't move laterally. He's slow. He can tackle. He's bigger than our other linebackers, but Marquise Bell is much better than he is. I mean, he's probably our 3rd best linebacker. He just offers a little bit more size at the position, I guess. But there's so many. I mean, we need receiver, we need tackle, which we're probably going to address in the draft. We need interior defensive line very badly, and we also need a Jaron Curse replacement pretty desperately. So there's a lot of stuff that they didn't do that they needed to do, and it's disappointing.
What you guys really need is a new coach, but that's an entire another matter. But
yeah,
what they also
pretty
need
much
is
the
Jerry
worst
Jones not to
possible
be their
offseason
GM.
for the Cowboys that you can think of.
yeah.
Starting at extending Mike McCarthy. So
I mean, I think you also. I think that Jerry Jones being your GM isn't helpful either.
geriatric Jerry Jones need to sell the goddamn team.
Trey Lance season. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Now we're gonna continue the train here, and we're gonna go to Weezo's loser of free agency. Weezo, take it away.
All right, so I'm gonna go the path of Carl here, and as you can see, my loser is right behind me. I am extremely disappointed, and I am a little concerned based off our free agency. We had a bit of money going into this free agency. We were top 10 in cap room. We could have made some moves. We could have added on to a year that, 9-8, not bad, but we did lose to the Steelers and missed the playoffs. But which Joey won't let me forget. But we could have done a little something. We could have gotten some pass rusher, maybe a Danielle Hunter, maybe a Jonathan Grenard, something to like improve the dilapidated thing we call a defensive line recently. But no, we didn't do that. We let people go. We have one of the deepest, in my opinion, linebacker cores in the league with Bobby Wagner, Jordan Brooks, and Devin Bush backing them up. But we let not one, not 2, but all 3 of them walk. What are we doing? And then we pick up Jerome Baker on a 1-year $7 million. At least we won't have some random bum at middle linebacker then. But we got to also consider that Jerome Baker, isn't he coming off an injury, Carl? Am I correct in that assumption?
I don't remember
believe he
him.
is.
I think he got hurt towards the end of the year last year.
And also, he got cut from the Dolphins for failing a physical. Why we're picking up someone to replace 2 potential all-star level linebackers who failed the physical and was cut because of it. What are we doing? What are we doing?
Nick, I think you can find somebody better than Devin Bush in the draft.
Yeah, we could, but this is also a weird.
Yeah, I think
draft
he's
for middle
mainly
linebackers.
upset about Jordan Brooks. I mean, that was
that's
their
mainly
guy.
Who I'm upset about.
Yeah.
It feels like despite having cap space, we're one of the few teams like the Chargers this year that actually got worse this offseason instead of better. And with the Charger, at least that makes sense because they were in cap hell and had to get out of it. We did this completely by our own choice.
Hey, it could be worse. You could be like the Pats who just stayed the same, even though they have the second most cap space in the league.
Yeah. But like,
Well, I mean, they did give
imagine
Leonard
what Jordan
Williams
Brooks
21
could've-
mil a year.
You did
Yeah.
give Leonard Williams a lot of money.
Imagine what Jordan Brooks could have become under a Mike McDonald defense. I am pissed that I will not get to see that now. Look at what he did for Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen. Like, I'm just
Roquan Smith.
unbelievable. And
He made Patrick Queen look like decent though, which is kind of
Yeah.
crazy.
because he's not the best, but he made him look very, very good. And it would have been amazing to see if we could have kept Wagner and I know Wagner can't really move laterally very well anymore, but he's
Yeah, I
still
mean,
a good tackler.
I mean, you signed Jerome Baker, who probably also can't move laterally now with his injuries. So I think that's just your special. I mean, you
Like,
guys
even-
should have signed Eric Kendricks too at that point.
My God. Like even Devin Bush, he wasn't great, but I would still rather have him on the team as he was young and had potential. But nope, we're throwing it all away for Jerome Baker.
Hey,
All right, moving on.
you guys should draft Edgerrin Cooper. He's a beast.
Moving on. Now we're gonna all share our favorite signings, cuts, and trades of the free agency. I'll kick us off with my cut. Because a pretty good segue after the worst free agencies. Mike Williams. I think this cut was good for both sides because I think Mike Williams could, he has the potential to go with a really good quarterback, good team, and like stay that true X receiver. But on the Chargers end, I understand you're paying a lot of money. He's made of glass, and he can only be an X receiver and nothing else. So he's a very one-way player. So from the Chargers end, it made perfect sense for him to be cut. From his end, he has a chance to go win a lot of games with a good team, depending where he signs. Now, for my signing, I really liked, I didn't like, I want to talk about the Calvin Ridley signing. Obviously, I want him to be a Patriot, but not for $23 million AAV. I feel like the Titans bailed us out again from overpaying a receiver who didn't deserve to be paid that much. But with that being said, Ridley is a good, talented wide receiver that I wish was a Patriot, but he's going to be a Titan for the next 4 years for grossly overpaid amount. But it just goes to show you, if Ridley's going to get $23 million a year, then Justin Jefferson is going to get like 46. But yeah. And then now for my trade, my trade was, where did I put it? Talk too much. Oh yeah, Keenan Allen. I think the Bears absolutely fleeced him. So I think it's a very good trade on their end. Getting a talented, probably in my opinion, top 15, maybe top 12 wide receiver for a 4th round pick. Even though he is aging, I think that is great for the Bears. And they're setting up most likely Caleb Williams. Most likely they're setting up phenomenally for a great rookie year. Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and Cole Kmet, all really good options for a young rookie quarterback to throw to. Not to mention you have a solid running back. I believe they signed a running back, right? Did they sign again?
DeAndre Swift.
They signed Swift.
Solid. They have a good room.
Solid guy. He might have been a production of the great Philadelphia Eagles line, but he's not that bad of a player, regardless.
Yeah.
Even
just
in
to
the-
mention on Calvin Ridley, I think he's a classic example of the cap inflation that we saw. I mean, that's about 19 mil or so of 2023 money, which I think sounds a lot more reasonable. I mean, 23 mil makes him a top 10 paid receiver in the league right now, which he's obviously not a top 10 receiver. But I just think with the cap going up, that makes more sense. But I mean,
I think it's also I think it also just goes to it shows how bare the market was for wide receivers.
yeah.
Because usually when the bare wide receiver market, because a lot of people get overpaid.
Yeah, well, especially because a lot of the best receivers that were supposed to be available got re-signed, like Mike Evans, Michael Pittman, T. Higgins might be available on the trade market, but that's still a lot more assets to give up. Which I know Joey wants him, but it also brings into question the AJ Brown trade just a couple years ago, because that's a very similar contract, but it's also a whole new front office now. So they just it is a little bit puzzling, especially Titans fans. I feel bad. They loved AJ Brown and they got a worse receiver for about the same amount of money.
And then they lost Derrick Henry because they didn't want to pay him.
Yeah, it's tough.
Not a great look. All right, Big Mo.
On the accounts of Calvin Ridley, he is 25. So I want everyone to know that he is actually 25.
Not
He has
29.
actually aged. He has not aged since he left Atlanta. His age is not real. And he is still a day one wide receiver one, and I hope the Titans enjoy that. My cut, since Joey graciously started with cuts, I like starting with the cuts. The cuts is a nice move. I'm gonna go with one I thought was a stupid cut. The Broncos quarterback situation seems to be a rotational garbage shoot that it goes from like they're at the point now where it's time to overreach on a quarterback that shouldn't be a starter. That I feel like they could do easily in this draft, which people could see them taking a guy like Penix or Bo Nix at 12, where they're at. And it would make sense for the Broncos because they bring in a veteran. The veteran doesn't play great. They cut the veteran, and they get a subpar rookie to come in and expect all their problems to be fixed. So it's great. It's great. Russell Wilson stats with the Broncos, by the way, over 2 years, 6,594 passing yards, overall 63.3 completion percentage, 42 pass touchdowns, and 19 interceptions. And that was while we were quoting his play atrocious for Denver. Obviously, he did have his moments. There were some terrible clips of Russell Wilson throwing the football. But again, what is he was throwing to Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton and God, I don't remember the name of their tight end. I think he's on the Eagles now. But I mean,
Albert Okwuegbunam.
Yeah, an injured Javonte Williams, whose career has just gone down the drain since his first year. I just don't think with the money you paid him, the cut was the best option. I mean, I feel like you could have at least dealt with him for one more year, try to trade him at some point during the season if you were that annoyed with him, or if he kept doing as bad as he did. I mean, last year was his best season performing on that team. So, I mean, like, I just felt like the cut was a dumb move for them, taking that much money in dead cap instead of trying to figure something else out. But, I mean, I guess in their eyes, all options were executed, and that's just what needed to be done. Good move for the Steelers picking him up. He's going to start over Justin Fields. I'm sorry, Justin Fields fans. Mike Tomlin likes a quarterback like that, and Russell will do well in Pittsburgh.
Well, also they don't want Fields to play over 51% of the snaps because then they'll have to give up a fourth instead of a sixth.
Yeah,
so
and Fields will actually be their running back. So,
because Najee Harris isn't right, Nick. Najee Harris isn't real.
Yeah, but signing.
I think Nick wanted to say something about Russell Wilson.
About Russell? Do you want to say something about Russell, Nick?
Yeah, so as the local Russell Wilson connoisseur, I'll have to say I blame a majority of the problems with him on Denver Broncos organization because they are a trash heap that does not deserve the title of an NFL team. That first year, the one that actually ruined his reputation, he was under an offensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett, who, just like his name implies, is a hack who was carried by Aaron Rodgers for his entire career. And so when he got out of under Nathaniel Hackett this year, he actually put up a great amount of numbers. He was doing decently well, and there was a lot of other problems on the team that were causing their downfall. But overall,
Nick,
the narrative was already set at that point. The
Nick,
narrative
was it the Broncos, or was it just Russell Wilson was a product of a great head coach?
I would not say that. I would say that is unequivocally the Broncos that are the problem.
Well,
And
Nick,
just
he
it
had
shows
Nick, he had a better year than the year before on the Broncos, but you're comparing like a Zach Wilson year to a Jared Goff Rams year. It's not like it's like that big of a dip. Like he went up, but he had nowhere to go but up. So I wouldn't say it was like that good of a year. He was maybe top 20
Joey,
last
the
year.
Broncos made Shane Waldron look good by comparison.
Nick,
That
I think
says
he was more.
something.
I think Russ was more of a product of a good head coach than he was a quarterback.
I think
because he
the
had
No,
a
no,
great.
Sean
on
Payton
had a-
didn't act like a good head coach last year. I mean, he was calling out people left and right and made for a bad chemistry throughout the team.
I agree.
I think that
Okay.
Russ is
All right, we got to continue on.
First of all, Nick, spell unequivocally. And Derrick Henry was my best signing. For the free agency, my favorite signing. We saw what the Ravens did this season. Lamar, his second MVP season of his career. And what do the Ravens need to add to an already amazing run game? It is the king. It is the king of the rushing yard himself. It is the Derrick Henry. And what is Derrick Henry going to do in this offense? Let me tell you what Derrick Henry's going to do in this offense. He's going to play fullback for Lamar Jackson, and he's going to block for Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is going to have his best rushing season ever. No, I mean, he is a great signing for the Ravens. An already playoff caliber offense that was, barring a few whistles from the refs, were away from making their Super Bowl appearance. And I think Derrick Henry adds a factor that destroys the Chiefs in that next matchup because yes, the wheels have been run off Derrick Henry. The man has been, in the words of our Madden League, Kenneth Walker III, run into the goddamn ground. He's still Derrick Henry. And Derrick Henry, yes, you kept Dobbins and, Keaton Mitchell emerged as a great guy. Love that guy, by the way. Hope he does good. But it's Derrick Henry. We're talking about Derrick Henry here. And what Derrick Henry does well is run the damn rock. And what is he going to do? He's going to run the damn rock in Baltimore and take some of that pressure off Lamar Jackson. And hopefully they get some more receiver help in that room to make that offense, my God, offense more scary than it was last year. But any comments on Derrick Henry? Or no, good.
He likes to run through people.
Solid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The best trade that happened this offseason. This is one of my own. Oh my God, that's beautiful. I can't believe it. He's finally gone. He's gone after the atrocious season of watching this man play football. He's gone, and I don't know if the Cardinals were desperate, if they were drunk that morning, but they traded Rondell Moore straight up for Desmond Ridder. Oh my God. I thought the Keenan Allen trade was a fleece. I've never seen a bigger fleece in my life. You took out my garbage and gave me a shiny new toy to play in the slot. Arizona, I wonder if you had a falling out with him. I don't know. I didn't follow Rondell Moore much that season. I don't remember if he was coming off an injury. I know he had maybe a lower production than usual. But I mean, a guy to play in the slot, fast as hell, after bringing in Darnell Mooney as option number 2 with Drake London, after my receiver room 2 weeks ago was only 3 men. I mean, this is just beautiful. And yes, we had to keep Taylor Heineke's contract as a backup now, but I mean, I think it's a good move for Desmond Ridder too. I mean, honestly, I don't hate the guy as much as I'm saying I hate the guy. I'm just a Falcons fan that had to watch the entirety of what was last season. So you can accept me for hating on that man for turning the ball over 15 times in the red zone. But it was a great trade, and I'm very excited for what is to come.
Nice.
Yeah, we've got Greg Dortch, receiver one in Arizona, which I think is very interesting for them.
Very sad.
Yeah, I mean, the Falcons really just went out this year and they're like, give me all the offensive production we can get here. To Kirk, Rondell Moore, and Darnell Mooney all within the span of 48 hours. Well, I mean, a little tampering with Kirk, so it's a little suspicious.
Well,
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Proven innocent until proven guilty. You have no proof. You have nothing, okay? We
Listen,
didn't do
Max,
anything.
hey, I respect you cheating. If you're not cheating, you're not trying to win. All right, Carl.
All right, so for my cut, I think I also chose a pretty puzzling cut rather than my favorite. I chose Aaron Jones. I think that was an extremely puzzling cut, in my opinion. I mean, at the time, it was even confusing. I know they did sign Josh Jacobs, but Aaron Jones had just pretty much carried them throughout the playoffs. He demolished the Cowboys' defensive line, and he also looked really good against the Niners. And this move looks even worse now with them re-signing AJ Dillon, which makes no sense. Like the combination between Aaron Jones and Josh Jacobs could have been phenomenal, but it just isn't. And then Aaron Jones ended up signing with the Vikings, which I think was a good signing for them. And moving on to another player for the Vikings, I chose the signing of Jonathan Grenard for my signing. I think he's not the most well-known player, but he played phenomenal for the Texans last year. He does like to play out of structure a little bit. Their defensive line, or the Vikings, just like to send everybody at the quarterback, especially towards the back half of the year last year. Their defense looked a lot better when they were deciding to send a bunch of crazy blitzes, and I think Grenard is going to benefit the most there. Any thoughts there?
No, I wish he stayed as a Texan, but it's a great sign.
I heard that they didn't like that he played out of structure, and they wanted more of a group in Houston than somebody who likes to just go their own way.
That's fair.
And then for my trade, I did Brian Burns, the Brian Burns trade, which I think was the biggest trade of the offseason so far. A couple of years ago, the Panthers turned down a trade from the Rams that was 2 first-round picks and a second, I believe, for Brian Burns. And then they come back. Their team is even worse than it was then, and they only get a second and a fifth. And the Giants extend him to, I believe it was 5 years, $150. So it's scary for me as a Cowboys fan having to face that, because believe me, I was not scared of Kayvon Thibodeau. Kayvon Thibodeau is not who we thought he was. He's not very good. He is an addition to the line, but he's not that guy. He's not that guy at all. The Giants, in terms of edge, like win rate, or I think it was pressure rate, was 32nd in the league. So that was huge for them. They really needed somebody to help. I mean, Kayvon Thibodeau is not a Batman. He's not a Robin. He's not even close to that. Their Batman is Dexter Lawrence, clearly, and they added a slightly juiced up Robin in Brian Burns, and Kayvon Thibodeau is just there.
He's out for this.
Basically. And did I steal that from another podcast? Possibly, but it is.
Whoa, hey, we don't do that here, Carl.
But it was good. I think
we're having a conversation with HR after this.
HR is literally just you.
I'm right.
Why is everyone cheating, man?
Hey, if you're not cheating, you're not trying to win.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a Patriots fan in here, so.
Hey, and Michigan. But you know what that led to? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 rings.
Is that how many losing seasons you're gonna have after you
Hey Nick,
after you pick a bad quarterback?
1 yard line, 1 yard line. Beat the Steelers, Nick. Beat the Steelers. Yeah, but we got 6 rings from New England. We got 1 from Michigan and 1 from the Red Sox. All cheated. It's all good, man. We still got all the rings.
Anyway.
Is Nick up now?
Yeah, I think I'm
Yeah.
up. Okay, so I'll start with the cut. This one was a long time coming. It's disappointing to see, but at the same time, I'm very ecstatic to see this cut. Ding dong, the bum is gone. Jamal Adams on the Seahawks. Cut. Blitz Boy has finally blitzed his way out of the building. He's locked out again for the second time in his career. And he's the most disappointing player in recent Seahawks history. We gave up 2 first-round picks for this bum who can barely even blitz in the first place, and that's the one thing he's good at. Has he even had a single interception on the Seattle Seahawks? Has he even is there proof that he's played more than 1 or 2 games a season before getting injured? No, there is not. And frankly, I'm just glad that his negative attitude and minuscule production can get off this team. And I'm just glad that the distraction is gone and we can finally move on to a better strong safety.
I mean, I feel like you guys kind of ruined him. He was great in New York. I hated playing against Brady very, very fast.
Honestly, I'd have to agree. He was that entire Jets defense, and it was a very productive Jets defense.
Brady struggled against the Jets defense.
And Jamal Adams was unbelievable. I mean, why was he playing defensive end for you guys?
I don't know. It was also
he got 9.5 sacks in the season. He shouldn't even be in the position to get 9.5 sacks. Like,
yeah, I
don't
know what we were doing.
He should be playing like the furthest in he should be playing is like box safety, or maybe like play in between the defensive tackles like a couple times a game. But off the edge? What are we doing?
Imagine Jamal Adams playing Belichick's box safety, like a Devin McCourty action.
No, dude, imagine him playing Jaron Curse roll and in
Ooh,
Dallas.
That too?
My goodness.
Well, before the injuries, though, the injuries kind of ruined him.
He got more concussions than
interceptions. Against 300-pound linemen.
You had him going against offensive linemen. What is
he
wrong
was
with
a 195-pound edge rusher.
He's got like 200 pounds difference between the guy he's going against every single play.
I witnessed Jamal Adams pick off Jarrett Stidham's very first pass in the NFL, and he brought it back for a pick 6. If you couldn't do that, Nick, on every play, I don't know what's wrong with you.
Anyway, I'll go to my signing. So my sign is going to be Saquon Barkley to the Philadelphia Eagles. A very good move, a very much of improvement in running back from DeAndre Swift to pick up one of the elite running back talents in the league for a decent price tag. And also it has the added effect of pissing off Giants fans endlessly. I have a ton of friends that are Giants fans, and oh my God, the meltdown was unreal. It is the single funniest thing I've ever seen, the reaction of Giants fans to this news. They're burning their jerseys. They're changing their kids' names that they named Saquon. Like, it is insane to see just how quickly good sentiment can turn to bad just because he's signed within division. That man is dead to New York. Like Tiki Barber said, he's dead to me.
Well,
yeah, I mean, I saw videos
for contract.
Yeah, they didn't.
Yeah, they never had the chance to match the offer and they said no.
Yeah, exactly. It was easily
affordable. It's on New York. It's not on Saquon.
Yeah, it's not on Saquon. It's on New York. Saquon wanted to come back, but the Giants, they were cheapskates. And that's
what are you saying, Carl?
Yeah, no, I was just saying I saw multiple videos of Giants fans urinating on their Saquon Barkley jersey. Because gasoline's not very cheap nowadays. So
I'm waiting for the Mac Jones jersey burning at Big Mo's house.
I don't think anybody has any, so that's the reason.
Oh no,
why.
there's a lot.
Except for Joey.
There's a lot.
Except for Joey.
Yeah, every Mac Jones.
I think they're waiting to just change the name on the back of it.
Yeah, every Mac Jones jersey that's ever been bought has been purchased by
Drake
Joey
May,
Manziel.
of course.
No, I actually the one Mac Jones jersey I do have, I didn't purchase myself. It was a Christmas gift. But Max purchased one himself.
Yeah, I mean, and all the highlights they were showing of Saquon was with Eli Manning handing him the ball. So I don't know if that many injuries, if he can still stay
Yeah.
on the field, and or is he going to be Saquon Barkley, or is he DeMarco Murray in Philadelphia?
Who knows?
Okay, that's
All
all
right.
fun.
Weezo,
Anyway, for my
round it up.
trade, I'm gonna go with Justin Fields to the Steelers on the Steelers half at least. Getting a young quarterback with decent upside if Russell Wilson ends up going down or sucking like he did that one year in the Broncos. For practically nothing, even if he does play over 50% of the snaps and it becomes a 4th-round pick for a quarterback in this market, that is absolutely nothing. We gave up, what was it?
I have something to say about this.
The Seahawks gave up a 3rd-round pick?
No, like
for,
actually, I got something to
Sam
say. Hold
Howell?
on, Nick. Hold on.
Well,
I
it was
just-
it was a
there was
couple
a-
of pick swaps. I think it was like a third and a 5th for Sam Howell and a 4th and a 6th, I think.
Yeah. But what I'm
So-
saying is we gave up more for Sam
Pretty-
Howell
pretty
than
even.
Justin Fields, who has probably a larger amount of experience and a more unique skill set than him. which
I have
is-
something
Higher
to
ceiling, yeah.
I just saw a report on Twitter just came out, and you can check out my Twitter because I just reposted it. But there was actually more interest around the league for Desmond Ridder than it was for Justin Fields.
I'm somehow not shocked. The Bears did a very poor job.
I am
of
very
selling
shocked. What do
him.
you mean?
Well,
the
it's
Bears
because
just
of the
completely
asking
screwed.
price.
Yeah, the Bears started asking too high, and it cost them.
All righty. All right. Moving on now into worst of the week. Yeah, worst of the week. My worst of the week this week. It'll bring some college football fans great pleasure to hear me bash this man. Will bring some fans like Carl will be quite upset. Big Alabama fan. But my worst of the week is Nick Saban for coming out saying the reason he retired was because NIL, and he basically just went on in front of where he spoke on in a public forum about how NIL is ruining college football because all the players care about is money, which I thought was rich coming from a man who is averaging $15 million a year at Alabama. And I think he's just salty that he couldn't have Eddie Lacy be his running back 3. Yeah, I mean, NIL, I think in terms of like it's hard to describe, but I think NIL is a lot more helpful than it hurts because I think it distributes the talent a lot better among the major schools. Because before, any like top player would just go to Alabama or go to Georgia or go to Michigan, Ohio State, anything like that to try and win a championship, try to get that starting role because that was your best chance of going to play in the NFL. Now they're going to go where the money is, going to distribute the wealth. College football is going to become a lot more interesting because you're going to have people who actually want to go to Utah because Utah is going to pay them a boatload of money. People who want to go to, I don't know, Illinois, Iowa, anything like that because they're going to get money. So I think it's honestly better for the league. I think that Nick Saban just kind of he needs to check his paycheck before he comes out and gets upset at the players who made him all the money asking for money. That's my opinion on it.
So a little chipping on that. So we talked about before NIL was around. Are you, in my eyes, the NIL deals, don't the schools with the more success, the more playoff appearances, don't they have a lot of money, right? They have a lot more money than some of those smaller schools do. So is anything really changing with where players go?
I would say so, yeah. I mean, because like 5 years ago, Utah was not that good of a school, and now they're a very good college football program.
They've been really good for a while.
Yeah, they've been good school.
They've been good before NIL.
Not this good.
I mean, they've had probably one of the best defenses in college football for at least the last like 6 or 7 years, and Going off of Max's point, I think this makes it even easier for schools like Alabama to compete. I mean, with the boosters and all the local businesses able to give. I mean, that the Tuscaloosa is like one of the biggest college towns in the U.S. So, like, I feel like it'd be even easier for them to recruit players rather than like a smaller D1 school that has no chance at getting these guys because they can't offer them enough money.
Yeah, honestly, I think that NIL is a big benefit to schools like Alabama. I think what really hurt Saban and those big schools is the rise of the transfer portal, because now Alabama can't just stack three different championship winning teams on their roster and just wait for them to come year by year when people graduate. They can't do that anymore. People will, if they aren't getting playtime, will go to a team that will give them playtime. And we saw that happen with Alabama and with Georgia and other teams like that. And it's how you can adjust to that really decides if a D1 or a big D1 school is going to continue to stay relevant. Like Georgia has adjusted to that. Alabama has kind of struggled with that with Saban, and now that's the real thing that's hurting. I think it's hurting Saban, or was hurting Saban. Now
Yeah. I think nowadays, I mean, Alabama wouldn't be able to keep a 24-year-old Calvin Ridley on their roster.
Yeah.
So I think it changes a lot.
But going back to my point, this Nick Saban's complaining about NIL. I mean, for me, the players need to make money because they're making you money. So
Right.
To sit there and complain about NIL saying it's ruining college sports, I don't think so, because I feel we wouldn't have seen TCU in the national championship last year without a little help from NIL. I mean, because you may not be, even if you're not a top D1 program, if you're a big enough school, you're still making a lot of money. So, like, I mean, there are some smaller football programs that are still really big schools that have a lot of money that they can spend for NIL that you're going to start seeing coming up in a few years.
But I mean, TCU is a Big 12 school. I mean, if anything, it was probably Cincinnati being in the final or the college
but that was
playoff, which is
like
kind of
before
crazy.
I thought. Like,
It was a little bit, but I just like, I guess TCU, they've always been like part of the top 25, but they've never been like one of the top 5 schools in the country. So I guess you're right. You're right in there. I mean, I don't know how much they're giving the players in terms of NIL.
TCU is the kind of chance that could have a chance with like the new playoffs.
Yeah, I guess we could see a team, a non-Power 5 team that's talented, and maybe like the UCF team a little while ago.
Yeah. I do like the expansion of the playoffs. I think that's good for the college football. But to round it off, worst of the week, Nick Saban. You were taking so much money from Alabama to coach this football team. Now that your players are getting a little something, you're upset. Shame on you. Let the players make money. They're earning you your money, earning you your paycheck. Well, they were. So yeah, you're my worst of the week. All right, now we're gonna head to Big Mo's Hot Zone Hot Take of the Week, presented to you by the Zoneman Podcast, and hopefully Duncan. Take it away.
Hello, all my adoring, loving fans of this segment. Today, I bring to you more quarterback talk, because who doesn't love that? The Hot Zone Hot Take of the day is after watching these free agency moves, a few acquisitions of some NFC teams. I'm talking Giants. I'm talking Seattle Seahawks. I'm talking we could see 2 new starters at the quarterback position this season. I'm talking Mr. Game Saver himself, Drew Lock in New York, and I'm talking the big man who looked like he was en route to be Offensive Player of the Year at the quarterback position until he threw like 20 picks. It's Mr. Sam Howell in Seattle. What are we thinking, guys? I mean, I'm looking at Geno last year, 3,624 passing yards, a 64.7 completion percentage, 20 passing touchdowns, 9 interceptions, only being sacked 31 times. We look at Sam Howell's season last year, seemingly stellar to start, almost hitting 4,000 passing yards, a 63.4 completion percentage on the year, 21 passer touchdowns. Then the kicker comes, 21 interceptions. But in all fairness, this man was sacked 65 times.
Yeah, I got a lot to say
65
about
times.
Sam Howell. I'm a big Sam Howell believer. I had him on my fantasy team last year. Loved it for about the first, I don't know, 10 weeks of the season. Anyway, I digress. I think that with a slightly better offensive line, much better coaching in Seattle, I think Sam Howell could be a much better quarterback than what we saw in Washington. I mean, the commies really just kind of they threw him out. They hung him out to dry. They gave him the receivers, but they didn't give him the O line at all. I mean, but yeah, I think Sam Howell can make a big step up in Seattle with throwing to DK, JSN, slightly better O line. I think
Noah
an app.
Fant.
What's that?
Noah Fant.
Noah Fant. Yeah, Noah Fant. Forgot about Noah Fant.
Sam Howell loves tight ends.
He does love tight ends.
Yes.
Yeah, I
anyway,
mean, actually, Nick's the Seahawks fan. How about you
Yeah,
give your insight
I'm
on
very
this?
happy to have him on the team. I think he'll be an option to start when Gino's contract expires. Because I think Gino's going to stay to the end of his contract at this point. But pretty much very high upside on him, especially if he can sit behind a quarterback and learn for a year, maybe get some of those pick heavy tendencies off. Overall, I'd say he's probably a higher upside than Gino, but he's also more risky. I think he could develop well under Ryan Grubb on the offense. Much better situation than the Commanders. We might not have the greatest O-line, but it's much better than the situation he had over there. As we've improved a lot on the tackles and tackle positions.
Yeah, I as a Cowboys fan, I did watch 2 full Sam Howell games last season. I mean, mind you, the Cowboys defense was very good, but the Commanders were last in rushing attempts last year, so they didn't really run the ball at all. So it was really just Sam Howell slinging it. And listen, he was a 5th round pick for a reason. He has the arm talent. He can sling it. He can make pretty much every throw, but he is terribly inconsistent. I'm not a big fan of using fantasy football to evaluate players. If that was the case, Austin Eckler would be getting $20 million a year. But yeah, I mean, and Jameis Winston would have gotten a max contract after his 30-30 season as well. Listen, Sam Howell, he's not the best. He definitely has some talent though. And he could learn, but mind you, this is also his 3rd year. So, and he's not eligible for a 5th-year option. So it would be an interesting situation if Gino stays the starter this year and then Sam is the starter the next year, because then they have to base their entire, like if Howell has a slightly better season in 2 years than he had this past year, what do they do? Is it Daniel Jones, or is it a different type of situation where I mean, they might have to pay him a lot of money. You never know.
I think it's going to be more of a QB competition out there than people think. I mean, Gino had a really good year 2 years ago. Last year, kind of iffy. I don't know where a lot of people. I mean, me personally, I like Gino. I like him as a person. Me personally, I don't think he's that great of a quarterback. I think he had a good year, and a lot of people are overhyping him because of that. He didn't have any good years before he got to Seattle. People got to remember. But I mean, I think Sam Howell can take that starting job from him. He has the arm talent. He just needs to get better decision making, and with more time in the pocket, I think that will come, and more playing time that will come eventually.
But also, I mean, the year before, not this past year, but the year before, Washington, I believe, had like a top 5 graded pass blocking offensive line according to PFF. I know that the names aren't very good, but as a unit, the year before Sam Howell started, they were very good, and there has been a lot of talk about Sam Howell holding onto the ball too long and not making decisions. I think a lot of that's also on the scheme and the type of concepts that they were running, but I'm not really sure.
Riverboat Ron's not exactly the best,
Well, he wasn't the OC.
at least the head
Yeah.
coach,
Well, yeah, he hasn't called plays though.
as far as we knew. Moving on.
So the next one, Daniel Jones coming off injury versus the new man in town, the man out of Mizzou, Mr. Big Play Drew Lock. So I took, respectively, full season as starters of both these quarterbacks their last time they played. Daniel Jones, probably best season of his career, was the year before where they just slipped into the playoffs. 3,205 passing yards, a 67.2 completion percentage, 15 passing touchdowns, only 5 turnovers, 708 rushing yards, and 7 rushing touchdowns. And when I say turnovers, I meant interceptions, Carl. Sorry for you to be baffled.
No. 15 passing touchdowns in a full season.
Yeah.
That was his playoff run?
Yep.
Right.
He had 22 total with the rushing touchdowns versus 2022 Denver starting Drew Lock was 2,933 passing yards, a 57.3 completion percentage, 16 passing touchdowns, but also like Mr. Sam Howell, 15 interceptions. He had 160 rushing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. I put that in because I also think, just like Daniel Jones, Mr. Mizzou has a little bit of versatility on the ground as well when playing the quarterback position. So Nick had some experience with him when he stepped in for Geno last season. I want to hear from you guys. Is this a competition?
I don't know what to think about Drew Lock personally, because I feel like the gross mismanagement of QBs in Denver definitely plays a big role into his time there. So I don't know how I would feel looking at his stats in Denver and making a fair assessment of him. I feel like last year when he stepped in, he looked a lot better than he did this year, or than he did in Denver. With that being said, Daniel Jones, I don't know. Also, I also don't know what to think about him. He had that one really good year, and then all his other years kind of were like meh. And 15 passing touchdowns, not great for a quarterback. But Daniel Jones only had, or not Daniel Jones, Drew Lock only had 16. So it's like, he's better. So I don't.
Yeah,
I guess
you'd
the
rather
they're both mid, but like as of right now,
you'd rather not have a quarterback that you have to hide all of his weaknesses and basically take the ball out of his hands. But that's exactly what the Giants did with Daniel Jones in 2022-23 season. So, yes, their offense functioned, but I don't know. I don't love – Drew Lock obviously led the Seahawks to a big win over the Eagles and even outplayed Jalen Hurts, many would say. But I'm still not sure if he's the answer. I think they might have to address it by trading up in the draft. Either that, or if somebody falls to them at 6, then they might have to do it then.
Yeah, I think Daniel Jones is going to end up the starter. I think overall he is a better quarterback than Drew Lock. Lock looked decent this year, but however, that was a very, very small sample size. And against the Philadelphia Eagles team that had been just starting to self-destruct on that drive that he led the game winner. And overall, I think Daniel Jones just brings more to the game, especially with his feet. And the option of opening up a QB running game, which I think is going to be pretty important considering their entire offense just left, aka Saquon Barkley. I think it's going to be a pretty rough year offensively for the Giants if they can't do something really quickly. Devin Singletary is a decent replacement option for Saquon Barkley, and he works well under Brian Dable since that old connection. But I think they need to pick up a wide receiver in the draft more than anything.
Well, I mean, yeah, if they go out there and they pick up a guy like Malik Neighbors or Ronald Odunze, I might lean more to Drew Lock being the starter just because he's a pass first quarterback. I feel like Daniel Jones likes to run the rock a lot more than
Yeah, but Daniel Jones is a better passer. Still,
I think Drew Lock's got better arm talent. I think with
arm talent, he is not a better passer than.
I think
No,
I mean,
he's not, Joe.
No,
I
Drew
can
Lock
confirm.
is not. He doesn't have crazy arm talent. I think it is Daniel Jones. I think, but Daniel Jones also didn't really play that much last year. He had a couple of good games, a couple bad games, and then he was out for the year.
When he wasn't like actively on his back like 10 times a game because of Evan Neal, he was doing okay.
Yeah, and Andrew Thomas being out for a while.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
All right. I think that will wrap up Big Mo's hot take of the week. It may not always be right, but it's always generating good conversation. And we're going to move on now into our third mock draft of the year, brought to you by the statistician himself, Carl Peterson. KP, take it away.
Yeah, so I'm going to start this off with the same pick. I've had it for pretty much the entirety of the offseason. I'm having the Bears taking Caleb Williams at 1. Now everybody else who wasn't a believer in that, you can believe it now. I thought it was going to happen all the time. It was not going to be Marvin Harrison at 1 ever.
Yeah, no.
So I think that's the obvious pick. And then at number 2 is very interesting. I mean, we keep hearing stuff back and forth about what the Commanders are going to do. It's mostly about which quarterback they're going to take, Drake May or Jaden Daniels. I have them taking Jaden Daniels just because of the stuff that I've heard recently. Even though I do like Drake May more as a prospect, I've heard just a lot that they like Jaden Daniels more. Won the Heisman last year. Exciting.
I was going to say, with that, they brought in a bridge quarterback, maybe not bridge quarterback, but a veteran quarterback that has a much more similar play style to Jaden Daniels and Drake May, which also plays into it quite a bit.
Yeah.
I think people are leaning more towards Jaden Daniels right now for the Commanders.
Yeah. And then at number 3, I've seen a lot of trades here, but I'm going to have the Patriots stick and pick Drake May out of UNC. There was a report not that long ago that if Jaden Daniels was gone, they were going to trade it away, but that doesn't really make much sense to me. I think Drake May is the better quarterback. He has more arm talent, and I think he'd be a better fit in New England.
With that report, I saw that, and it was like literally like an hour later, it got proven wrong. It just wasn't as big. It wasn't as big of a clickbait that's report. They like Drake May just as much as they like Jaden Daniels.
Okay, yeah, and I think he did well in or at the combine in terms of the interviews. I think those went well for Drake May.
Yeah.
So now I have my big trade. Before all of the free agency frenzy, I had the Vikings trading up to 5. But with everything that's gone on with the Chargers, I'm switching that up. I'm having the Vikings trade up to 4. I have them trading pick 11, pick 23, which they just traded for from the Texans, and a first the following year to move up 7 spots to take J.J. McCarthy out of Michigan. I think that's a very big move for them. They need quarterback. I don't think Sam Darnold is that guy. And I think they're going to make this move. J.J. McCarthy's not my favorite quarterback prospect ever, but he's got the size, he's got the arm talent, and he's young enough. And I think they're going to go with him. And it doesn't matter what I think. It matters what the NFL thinks about quarterback. So what are you guys' thoughts?
I think it's a bold move. I don't know if you would be available later, possibly at 11. I don't know if you'd fall that far. Probably not with how things are shaping out.
Especially with the Giants. I think
it does come off as a desperate move, which, considering the Vikings situation, might be something they would actually do. So I think it could be within the realm of reality. I just can't process J.J. McCarthy going at number 4 with his level of talent, but it might just be the way the QB market goes.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Max?
I think, I just I'm sorry, but I watched that championship, man. I watched that entire game and I you can send me the whole film for his whole college career, man, but I watched that one game in a big moment with all of his weapons available to him, and I'm just like, that's not a guy I see going at 4. I just I mean, I don't know where it came from. I mean, I guess it didn't come immediately after they won the championship, but we were talking about this guy being taken in early round 2 just like a month ago. What what could have possibly happened? And I mean, I watched the combine. I watched all of the combine. I didn't see anything that boomed off my brain higher than what I already saw. I mean, I don't know what kind of neurons click in NFL scouts that I don't have, but from a guy to shoot all the way from mid to early round 2 to some people like, I'm not saying just Carl, I've seen other people that got the Patriots taking him at 3. Like,
Yeah.
what are we doing?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I just saw.
as
There's
a
talks
JJ
where Drake
McCarthy,
May is falling below him.
Yeah,
as
I've
a-
seen that a lot recently.
as a JJ McCarthy enthusiast, I may be a little biased, obviously, because he went to Michigan. I'm a big Michigan fan. However, I think what the scouts are liking about him more than Penix or Nix is that he's 20, just turned 21 right before the draft, I believe. 2, he can run the rock and he can throw the ball because he has the arm talent. I think that Harbaugh's system at Michigan was obviously, it was very, very run heavy, and that's what kills what he looks like. The national championship game is not a good display of what kind of quarterback he is. He does have the potential to be a good quarterback. The potential is there, and that's what's drawing the scouts in. They believe that if they draft him, they can develop him into that top tier quarterback that you want with the top 5 pick, and that's why he's jumping up board so quickly. And then in terms of the combine, I don't think outside of throw power or like throwing distance, whatever you want to call it, that I don't think it's a very good representation for a or in 40 if they choose to do it. I don't outside of that, I don't think it's a very good representation for how good quarterbacks are because timing's all off when you're throwing to these receivers because you're not playing with them. And also with that being said, at Michigan, he did not have passing threats. I love Roman Wilson, but he is not a real threat. Ronnie Bell was not a real threat last year. It's not like he was out here at Ohio State throwing to Marvin Harrison, Garrett Wilson, all these like top tier receivers. He was throwing to guys who are going to be in the UFL next year. Like Roman Wilson will get drafted, he will get cut if he's not a returner. I love the guy who's going a best of returner in the NFL.
Yeah, well, I mean, it looks like Roman Wilson's going to be a day 2 pick, so that's going to be
personally, but
that's going to be interesting to see.
I think with Roman Wilson, I think it's also a lot of sorry, I know I'm rambling. I think it's also a lot of the same thing with JJ. They didn't throw the ball a lot, so I think he has the potential.
Yeah, not enough tape on him, but they're just more projection than anything.
He can block.
Yeah. All right, and then at number 5, just with the board falling the way it is, I have Marvin Harrison Jr. to the Los Angeles Chargers. I just think that's the obvious move there. Now they have a giant hole at receiver, and he is, he's a generational receiving prospect. He is more highly regarded than Jamar Chase, than Jalen Waddle. I mean, and I think he's a lock to go in the top 5.
Yeah.
But we've already touched on him quite a bit. So I have we've heard a lot of reports about JJ potentially going to the Giants at 6, but I have them taking Rome Odunze as JJ's gone in this specific mock draft. He is my receiver 2 at the moment. I think he just looked so good at the combine that it's hard to not put him there. I think before the combine, it was probably 2A and 2B with Rome and Malik Neighbors, but I just think that Rome beats him out a little bit. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree. With how the hype is currently going, I think Roman has the slight advantage in getting picked. Neighbors won't be far behind, but I think the Giants will end up going with Odunze.
I mean, I still value him very close to the same 2A, 2B in the receiver position. I think this happens with a lot of people right up at the draft. When we get close to the draft, they get nervous with who they initially put, and they get a little more antsy to switch them around. And I think that could be the case here. I don't think there's a clear cut better receiver. I think it's either, and if it is, in my opinion, I think it's, I really think Neighbors. I watched a lot. I mean, granted, I watched more tape of him in college than I did with Rome Odunze, but I mean, I feel like the Pac-12 defensively is not really on the same skill level as the SEC defenses.
Yeah, I'm pretty high on Odunze. That's why I had him there, and there's been a lot of pre-draft hype around him. And then moving on, I think this is probably the most obvious pick of the draft to this point, especially with the Titans signing Calvin Ridley. I have them going Joe Alt. I think that's the obvious. He's the obvious number one tackle at this point. Olu's fallen a little bit, so I think he's the one at the moment. And then I have another trade. I actually had number 8. I have the Cardinals trading up to the Falcons pick from their 11 pick that they traded to the Vikings. So I have the Falcons moving down to 11, Cardinals moving up to 8. We saw this last year with the Paris Johnson. I think they moved down from 3, and then they traded back up to 6 to take Paris Johnson, I believe. I have them drafting Malik Neighbors out of LSU. I think that would be a big weapon for them. It would make Greg Dortch receiver 1 to Greg Dortch receiver 2. So I think that's pretty big for them. What are you guys' thoughts?
It is a very Cardinals kind of move. I don't know if they would go O-line here with Olu or if they would go Neighbors. They have needed at so many positions that you could pick literally anyone and it would be correct here, but
yeah, especially I just think with the amount of receiving talent in this draft and Neighbors falling to 8, I think they'd have to jump it. Or I think any team could jump here. I think the Jets could jump. I think there's a lot of teams that could trade up to 8 to snag a receiver.
In my opinion, I think with the signing of Jonah Williams to the Cardinals, I think that they go receiver here. I agree with Carl.
Oh yeah, especially I forgot about that. Especially with Paris Johnson at right tackle.
Yeah,
that would be
the
big
Falcons could go with him here.
With who?
What am I getting? What am I getting in return?
You're getting and on mine I had a 3rd and a 5th this year to move up 3 spots, which I think is pretty fair value.
Well, does he get the 11?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was like, just a 3rd and a 5th. I was like, what?
I like it.
Yeah, I think that works.
Yeah, but Nick, the Falcons aren't going to take a tackle here because they.
Well, I've said Neighbors, but
maybe they just signed 2 wide receivers.
Yeah, if anybody, I think they take Dallas Turner, but or at 8, but I don't think they have to.
Yeah, they probably don't have to.
So at number 9, I have the Bears. I think, especially with a lot of their signings recently, they were also a contender to take a receiver before the Keenan Allen trade. I have them taking Byron Murphy out of Texas. I think that would be big for them. I think they have a big need on the interior. I know edge is also an issue, but I think that later on they can get a better edge rusher in the draft in the 2nd or possibly 3rd round. What are you guys' thoughts?
I like it.
Interesting move. Dallas Turner, I think, would be a possibility too, because you said they need an edge, but I could see Byron Murphy.
Yeah, and I think I probably have my most surprising pick right here for the Jets. I have the Jets taking wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU. He has climbed up the draft boards recently, and I think we could see 4 receivers in the top 10.
Where is this coming from? Why is he top 10?
Nick,
He's
a
he's
very
the
good
consensus
receiver.
number 4 receiver at the moment.
He's a very good receiver that was kind of slept on earlier in the year because he was on a team with Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors. But he has very good talent, and I could see him jumping up.
At 6'3", he ran a 4.33. I think that's all you need to.
Yeah, I don't know about top 10. Granted, he was a number 2 his entire college career, but I do see him jumping up top 15, maybe top 10.
I guess it just seems weird for me to him to jump that drastically. It just seems like a bit of an overreach.
I mean, Nick, you had Ennis Rackshaw going in the first round. That's the
times have changed. Times have changed.
No,
combine
times. I thought we
have
didn't
changed.
know ball. I thought we.
Joey, do you have proof Ennis Rackshaw Jr. exists?
Sauce Gardner.
Do you have proof he exists? Provide it to me right now.
Nick, I thought we didn't know.
Mac, okay. Max seemed to agree with.
I'm sorry.
Come on.
Sorry, Max. I'm sorry, Max.
I like it. I do, but I just don't think he's the 4th receiver to go, man. I mean, Ladd McConkey had a great combine, dog. He's a great receiver.
Listen,
he is
Max,
a great receiver.
Max, let me tell you why Ladd's not going in first round. It's because he's going number 34 to the Patriots.
It's because
I have Ladd going early second. Okay. I like
just move on to the next pick.
He looks like a Patriot.
It's because he's white. It's because
the Falcons pick, I do have them taking Dallas Turner at 11. I think they have a big needed edge. And I was debating between them taking them and or him or a corner, because I think those are their 2 biggest needs at the moment. But I think they could address corner later as well.
I agree. I like it. I think you should give him Ladd McConkey.
I like it a lot. I also, because I feel like Calais Campbell will be retired by the end of the season, and you just slip him in with Arnold Ebiketie, and that's a dangerous front. So I like it.
Yeah, I was a big Ebiketie guy out of Penn State too. So moving to 12, I know this is a spot we've seen a lot of quarterbacks. Possibly, we've seen Bo Nix here a couple times, but I have the Broncos taking Quinyon Mitchell to pair with Pat Surtain. They don't have a second corner. They don't have much in the secondary at all with Justin Simmons going. I think that would be big for them.
I love Quinyon Mitchell. I watched his tape the other day. He's an exciting corner. And pairing him with Patrick Surtain is so cool. Especially because as a rookie, to not have to guard the number 1 receiver on the team, on every team, really would help with his development, because you're not thrown right into the fire, and you got a really good corner to learn behind. I love it. I love it. Way better than Ennis Rackshaw Jr.
Listen, I like the pick. I like the corner pick for the Broncos, and he's a very good corner, probably the best available this high. But I do feel like they do need to go to quarterback if they want to be even semi-competitive this year, because they've made no indications that they're going to make a move in this offseason by any other means but the draft.
Right, but they could go get Spencer Rattler in the 2nd or 3rd round and be just as fine.
I think you could even get Bo Nix or Michael Penix in the 2nd round.
Michael Penix probably. I don't know if Bo Nix would fall to the Broncos in the 2nd round again, but you never know.
That's true. All right, moving to pick 13, I have the Raiders taking Tyrese Fuaga out of Oregon State. He is with Olu falling down the board quite a bit. He is my tackle 2. And I think the Raiders, they need a lot of O-line help. I think this might be a bit too early for interior, especially because they did just re-sign their center. So I don't think we'd see interior line here. We're not going to – I did originally have interior defensive line, but with the Wilkins signing, their defensive line looks awesome. So I don't think there's any need for that. Obviously, there's some holes in the secondary, but I think that they want to prioritize protecting their quarterback.
I like that pick.
Good one.
Yeah. And then moving to 14, I have the New Orleans Saints taking Johnny Newton out of Illinois. I think he would be a good fit for them. I think they need a lot of Jerzan Newton, but everybody calls him Johnny. And I think they could definitely use that. Obviously, I think they probably need tackle as well, but it was addressed recently in the draft. And their defensive line is Cam Jordan, and that's about it. And he is very old. So, what is there?
Brian Breezy, man.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
They did take Brian Brzee pretty early last year, but I think they
All
could
right.
use I think they play a little bit different of roles. All right, and then moving on to pick 15. I got Brock Bowers. This is falling a bit far, but I think he has fallen a bit in teams' eyes. I just think especially teams are scared to pull a Kyle Pitts. I got to be honest. I think it's that. And I think he'd be a good fit with the Colts. The Colts do love using their tight ends. They love Mo Alley Cox, but I think he would be I think he'd be a better pick than taking a receiver there, just in terms of his talent.
Well, yeah,
what
I
do you
mean,
guys think?
that pick, I think he's probably better than any receiver left on the board based on the way you have your mock going. So I don't hate that pick at all. I think he's one of the best all around tight ends we've seen come out of the draft in a very, very long time, and he has game changing potential.
Yeah, I was thinking corner as well, but they are in pretty heavy talks to trying to trade for Jerry Sneed. So I didn't include a corner there.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to 16. I have the most obvious pick in the entire draft. I have Jared Verse going to the Seahawks. He's basically already a Seahawk. There's no reason for anybody else to go there. It's just he has the Seahawks aura, and that is what's gonna get picked.
Yeah, it just makes sense. I wouldn't be mad.
Yeah, especially with the board falling the way it has. I think that's the pick. I think they could also target interior offensive line. I think that would also be a good pick for them there.
As long as we're not stupid, we'll pick Verse.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of picks that you could do there.
There's a lot of players on the board that might be better than Verse, but none of them scream Seahawk like Verse does.
Yeah. And actually, speaking of interior offensive line, I have the first one going off the board at 17 to the Jaguars, Jackson Powers-Johnson. We could see him going even earlier than this. People really see him as a phenomenal prospect, and even better than players like Tyler Linderbaum in the past. He's seen very highly. Could play center or guard, but will probably play center, and that's a pretty big need for the Jaguars.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree. In my mocks, I've had him going a little later to like the Steelers, but he's been climbing recently on boards pretty dang high. So I agree with that.
Yeah. Considering that their O-line was the reason they kind of just fell off this year, that makes sense.
They need to protect Trevor for sure.
We don't want Mac Jones to see the field.
Yes, we do. Maxonville is gonna go crazy.
All right, moving on.
All right, moving to 18. I have a pretty obvious need for the Bengals. I have them taking Olu Fashanu. They need tackle bad. I mean, Jonah Williams is gone. They don't have anybody at tackle. They need to take tackle at every single pick. Joe Burrow, I've heard reports he might not be the same guy ever again with his injuries. So you got to try to it was a super rare injury for Joe Burrow that does not happen. So they have to make sure that he does not get hit or he got hit again and get injured again. So they got to protect him.
I give that pick. Who comes up?
Nice.
All right.
Nice.
And then at number 19, I got another tackle coming off the board to the Rams. They got a big need on the O-line as well. They signed some interior help, but I have them going with Troy Fautanu out of Washington. I'm pretty high on him as well. I think he's going to be good. Short arms, and he's a little bit short as well, but I think he's good.
Hey man, there's nothing wrong with short arms, all right?
That's a tackle, there kind of is, but yeah.
No. I like Nick.
Moving on. So number 20. I think I have a little bit of a reach here, but it is an absolute need for this team, and I think that they could reach if they have Jackson Powers Johnson off the board. I have the Steelers taking Zach Frazier out of West Virginia.
Interesting.
I think that they need a center, and that's who that is. So
I like the pick. I do think it's a little bit early in reach, but you're right. They do need a center. I don't know. I feel like if I'm the Steelers, I might look to trade back there and try to take him early second round if you can. Maybe look for a team like I don't know, like a New England or Giants or someone who has a lot of holes to fill and try to trade back with them.
Yeah, you could see a QB needy team, especially trading up into the first and trying to draft
QB or wide receiver. You want to trade up in the late first and get an early second return. I could see that. Go get Zach Frazier for there. But yeah, I don't hate it.
And then at 21, I have a team who just lost a corner, a big corner, Xavier Howard, and I have the Dolphins taking Terrion Arnold out of Alabama.
I don't like it, just because it's the Dolphins. I don't like the Dolphins.
You don't like what?
The Dolphins.
Oh, yes. I think it would be a good pick for them. Probably need some more corner depth, and I know they lost Brandon Jones at safety. I know it's much different roles, but still need secondary.
Ennis Rackstraw Jr.
Well, obviously any team would like to, but I don't have that. Obviously,
They got Jordan Poyer.
Oh, they did.
Yeah.
So
that's a good. That's a good move at safety. All right, moving on. I have the Eagles at pick 22 taking the first player of this position off the board. I have them going with linebacker Peyton Wilson out of NC State. I'm a big Edgerrin Cooper guy, but he is below Peyton Wilson. Peyton Wilson does scare me a little bit with his multiple ACL tears in college. But he is a phenomenal linebacker, and it's a very big need for the Eagles, even after signing Devin White.
I am a big I forgot his name already. Patrick Wilson. The guy linebacker from NC State. I forgot. I never knew his name when I watched him play in college.
This is NC State.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant like a different player. I was like,
yeah, no, I'm a big fan of him. I remember watching him play a lot in college, just because being bored on the weekends, just throwing some good old NC State football. It's fun to watch. But yeah, I like him a lot. You don't need an ACL. Just pull down the other ligament. You're fine. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, Brady, it's not like you have to move laterally a linebacker anyway, and just ask the Seahawks.
Yeah. You could be a Seahawk then in the near future.
All right, moving on.
What I do?
I have the Cardinals at 23 as they traded this. This was part of the pick or the trade up to 4. They get pick 23 from the Vikings, who just got it from the Texans, and I have them taking Nate Wiggins, corner out of Clemson.
Good price corner.
They have a need at so many positions, and corner is one of them, and I think Nate Wiggins is the best on the board at that point.
I like Nate Wiggins. I think he's better than Ennis Rackstraw Jr. by a wide margin.
Yeah.
I think you can make the argument that he's the second best corner in the draft.
You can definitely make that for sure.
Yeah. Speed kills, and he has a lot of that.
I know Max wants Nate Wiggins on his Falcons, but I don't think he's going to fall. Or they could trade down even further and take him in the first as well. But we'll have to see. All right, at 24, I have my Cowboys. I have them taking a player that I don't think is going to be available in real life. J.C. Latham out of Alabama. I don't think he's going to be available at 24, but he is the best tackle available here in this mock draft. So I have him going there. And tackle is their obvious number one need.
I like it.
Moving on, pick 25. I have the Packers taking another tackle. This time, Amarius Mims out of Georgia, out of Max's Georgia Bulldogs.
I love it.
Packers need a tackle. I think that's pretty. They need with Bakhtiari gone and just in general. It was pretty much Zach Tom on that line and nobody else. So they
He's
need
a
O line pretty bad.
freakishly,
Sense.
freakishly talented tackle too. Freakishly.
He could go even earlier than that. I think he will, in fact. But it's just how the board laid out. 26. I have the Buccaneers going with edge. Leatu Latu.
Ooh, good
I
pick.
think in terms of talent, he's the number one edge on the board, but he has a lot of injury concerns. He had to medically retire from college football, similar to Jalen Phillips, and he had to come back and be really good. So I think talent-wise, he's probably a top 15 pick, but I think he's going to fall outside of that.
Align with Latu, Vita Vea, and Tryon Shakona. That would be pretty scary.
I like
For
Latu
sure.
a lot, despite his injury history, and I think the Bucks is a good place for him to become a good player. I know Max likes him a lot too, and that's why he's so
Max
excited.
also wants him to be a Falcon.
Max
Max
wants
wants-
everyone defensive player.
If it was in Max's control, everybody would be a Falcon,
That was
except
not.
for Desmond Ritter.
That was not the issue here.
Oh, you think
The issue that
he's
he's Buck.
Do you not like him falling this far?
No, the issue is that Chop Robinson is just better.
You
I
only
don't
like
think
because
so.
his name's
I
Pork
don't
Chop.
think so, but it's also tough for Penn State guys, especially their pass rushers, to project them because they're all crazy athletes. Well, everybody that has ever gone to Penn State is an insane athlete because that's just how it works. But it's tough to project them in the NFL.
He looked mid against Michigan. That's all I'm saying.
Well, this is the last edge that I have getting taken. So I only have 2 in the first round. So you could easily see Chop as the number 3 edge in the draft.
3 in the first round. Latu versus.
Oh yeah, sorry, the 3rd. So you could still see Chop being the number 4. All right, and then moving on to 27, I have the Cardinals' 3rd pick in the first round of this draft. I have them taking Braden Fisk out of Florida State University. He tested probably better than anybody else at the combine. He showed out, and I think he rose his draft stock enough to get him to be in the first round. Interior defensive line, they have a big need everywhere in the front 7, and I think interior defensive line is part of that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't the last team to take 3 picks in the first round the Raiders? I'm just curious. Am I wrong?
It was either, I know the Giants have done it recently. I think the Browns did recently.
Yeah, I think the Browns.
Or was it
did.
the Raiders with in 2019 with like Farrell and okay. It might be them.
Oh.
No, it did not.
A little foreshadowing.
But I think this is a good pick for them. I think Fisk is good. And I think he's going to rise up the draft board quite a bit. Could sneak into the first.
I agree.
And then at 28, I have the Bills taking Donnie Mitchell out of Texas. He had a very good combine as well. Looked good on tape. And I think he's a top 5 receiver in the class. So, and definitely I like Khalil Shakir as much as the next guy, but he's not quite a receiver too. So.
Yeah, no.
He would be receiver 1 on the Patriots.
That's not a good thing.
I know, Nick.
All right.
By myself, when you point out.
At 29, I have the Lions taking somebody who has fallen quite a bit in this draft. I have them taking Cooper DeJean.
No, I like that.
Out of Iowa.
I like that a lot.
I
He would
think
fit
he's
well
a bit
there.
of a steal. I think they still have a need at corner and just in general in the secondary, even after free agency. And I think especially if he falls there, they're going to take him.
Yeah, that seems like a Brian Branch kind of steal pick. How it's like a good secondary player who is projected a bit higher, falls to there, and they just can't resist, and he does very well for them.
Absolutely. Brian Branch was awesome for the Lions last year.
Dan Branch is so good at football.
Yeah. And then at 30, I got the Ravens taking a receiver. Not my favorite prospect, but it only takes one team to love his athleticism. I have Troy Franklin out of Oregon.
It
I
makes
think
sense.
they need receiver. I think another pick could be a tackle for them. I think they have a pretty big need at tackle. What do you guys
Didn't
think?
Zay Flowers get into some kind of trouble or something?
He did,
So-
but I think it's settled. I don't think he's
If
gonna
it's
get
settled,
suspended.
then that's a good
I think the
addition.
league office stopped investigating it.
Okay, because that would be a good pair to him then, if he's able to play.
I think we could also see Keon Coleman at that pick, and we could also see Max's favorite, Lad McConkey, at that pick to get him a new slot
Mine.
receiver.
Mine. It's mine. I won.
All
Should
right,
we,
and at pick
find-
31, I have another one of Max's favorites. I have cornerback Kamari Lassiter sliding into the first round, and from what I've heard, he had a good combine as well, and he went up draft boards a little bit, and I think the Niners could use some secondary help. They already have probably the best front seven in the league, maybe a little bit worse with Eric Armstead leaving, but I think they could use some secondary.
Makes sense.
You had his
Nick, you
attention.
have the
but
most
yeah,
puzzled look on your face I've ever seen for every single one of my picks.
It makes sense. I'm just thinking of some other players that have yet to be picked. At this
Nick
point.
doesn't keep
Yeah,
up with the current draft trends though.
Yeah, well, I just Kool-Aid is another guy that could get picked around there. He hasn't gone. There's a couple guys. They could
Have you
also
picked Chop
try to
Robinson
get
yet?
interior.
No,
No,
he just
I have
come
not.
on. We literally talked about 2 seconds ago how
Yeah.
he wasn't picking Chop Robinson in the first rounds.
I know, but I still feel like he has to be a first round talent. Like I'm agreeing with Max here.
Athleticism wise, we could definitely see him.
Before, why didn't you say it before, dude? Bro.
All right. Well, this last pick, originally before a couple days ago, I had a receiver going to the Kansas City Chiefs, but they made a little signing that's a little bit scary. They got Hollywood Brown. That's not very fun for any other team in the league. And then I look at their depth chart. Their starting left tackle at the moment, Wanya Morris. So I don't even know who that is. So I have them picking the probably the best tackle on the board. It's tough between him and Guyton, but I have the Chiefs taking Graham Barton out of Duke. I think he profiles more as a left tackle. I mean, this is just from what I've heard. I haven't watched him at all, but I think he might profile a little bit more as a left tackle for them.
I like it.
Makes sense.
I do agree. Like, as much as I thought, like, I'm also not scared they're going to pick Xavier Worthy. I think protecting Patrick Mahomes might be better long term.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that wraps up Carl's mock draft. A lot of big names not taken. Surprisingly, I'm not surprised. Carl knows ball. We'll see how it goes in April. And with that being said, we just want to thank you guys for watching. We thank you for the support and all that. Make sure you guys follow us on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, all forms of social media. We'll keep the episodes coming every week. And until next time, have a good St. Patrick's Day. And this is the Zoned In Podcast, signing off.